Welcome to this JetShip Worldwide presentation, Importing and Shipping to Canada. This presentation reviews the key issues you should be aware of when importing goods to Canada. Each section is bookmarked for easier navigation, but we recommend taking time to view the presentation in its entirety. It takes around 10 minutes or so. To assist with further research, an accompanying PDF that includes links to the reference resources is available on our website or in the description below. And if you find this presentation useful and informative, please hit like. We appreciate your feedback. Now let's get started and discuss being an importer of record. When ordering or receiving goods from outside of Canada, you should consider your responsibility as being the importer of record. Broadly speaking, the importer of record is a person or entity who owns the goods at the time of import. This comes with the responsibility of compliance. You, as the importer, have the ultimate responsibility for compliance, even if you use a customs broker. To transact with Canadian Customs CBSA, you must have both a business number, or BN9, which is common to all businesses, and for importing and exporting, you will also need an import or export account number, or RM number, that links to your BN9. You can obtain an RM number directly from the CBSA Assessment and Revenue Management System, or CARM. Registration in CARM is mandatory for all importers. In CARM, you also need to assign a customs broker and get a surety bond. While most importers choose to partner with a customs broker, having a broker is not a legal requirement. However, whether you choose to use a customs broker, you, as the importer of record, once again, have the ultimate responsibility for compliance. Now let's talk about the commercial invoice. If there's one key takeaway from this presentation, it's the critical importance of having a detailed and accurate commercial invoice. A Canadian commercial invoice, or CCI template, is available from CBSA's website. Use of a Canadian commercial invoice is not mandatory, just make sure your invoice includes all the necessary data. One of the most overlooked aspects of a commercial invoice is ensuring that it has a complete description of the goods. Description should strike the right balance between not being overly vague by, for example, using descriptions such as car parts, clothing, machinery, or samples. On the flip side, the description should not be overly specific, using wonky, widgety thingamajig wording for some obscure industrial part that few would understand. The Goldilocks solution, or the right solution, is to provide both a broad, widely understood description that anyone would understand, along with more specific industrial-type details, including material content, product features, and the intended use. Export declaration from the country from where the goods are being shipped. Although not a Canadian requirement per se, you should be aware that an export declaration may be necessary for goods that you are receiving from another country. The information necessary for an export declaration usually mirrors the requirements necessary for import to Canada. Note that a packing list may also be necessary, and the HS classification for export may differ from the Canadian classification. And also note, for most shipments from the United States to Canada, an export declaration is not required. Harmonized codes and tariff classification. Canadian Customs, CBSA, utilizes the globally recognized Harmonized Classification System. The Harmonized System is a way to translate an importing product's description to a 10-digit code that Canadian Customs uses to assess your goods. The description on your commercial invoice forms a basis for the tariff classification. Ideally, you should include the harmonized code directly on the commercial invoice. While this is a global system, each country, including Canada, has their own version. For help with determining the correct tariff classification, you can visit our YouTube channel or our blog on harmonized codes. A useful tool we recommend is the Tariff Finder tool from Canada Export Development Corporation. In addition, you can get a tariff classification directly from CBSA by requesting an advance ruling. We recommend this step whenever possible. country of origin. With Canada's many free trade agreements, which we'll discuss later, many assume that from where goods ship and were purchased is their country of origin. However, country of origin most often refers to where the goods were manufactured, or, in customs parlance, where they were quote-unquote wholly obtained. Regardless of from where the goods ship, all imports are subject to the same standard import processing to Canada. The default most favored nation duty rate will apply, unless they qualify as originating under a free trade agreement. Declaring a value. In the majority of cases, the correct value to declare for import to Canada is the transaction value. The transaction value is simply the price you paid or will pay for the goods. This is most often the price shown on the commercial invoice. Canadian Customs, CBSA, considers the value for duty to be the cost of goods plus shipping and insurance. This is known as the CIF value, cost, insurance, freight. It's best to specify these three costs on your invoice. If the transaction value is inclusive of shipping and insurance, you should include the term CIF value. But in some cases, there is no direct transaction, such as when you're importing samples or receiving warranty parts or a gift. Remember, there's no such thing as a zero value when it comes to customs. Everything has a value. In such cases, the cost of identical goods or similar goods are the following methods in determining the value. Each method of valuation follows in hierarchical order. Note that the intercompany transfer of goods or goods between related entities complicates things, not just for import, but also has tax implications. In these cases, what you may view as a true transaction value will likely not be accepted by Canadian Customs. Canadian import duty and fees. Canadian import duty is determined by three main factors that we just discussed: tariff classification, country of origin, and value. For most imports, the tariff classification and country of origin determine the percentage to apply to the value for duty. The default rate of duty is the MFN tariff, or most favored nation rate. The column for preferential duty tariffs refers to originating goods from a free trade country, which we'll discuss later. Note that in some cases, duty is by number of units or a unit of measure such as weight or volume. Keep in mind that even if duty-free, all goods are subject to Canadian federal and provincial taxes and other potential import fees. Visit our blog outlining common Canadian import fees for more details. Canadian Free Trade Agreements. Canada's largest and most impactful free trade agreement by far is the USMCA-CUSMA Free Trade Agreement. But with the recent trade frictions with the United States, the other free trade agreements are becoming more prominent. With the notable exceptions of being India, China, and Brazil, Canada has free trade agreements with virtually all the world's leading economies across Europe, Asia, and South America. Free trade agreements facilitate trade in both goods and services. For merchandise or goods, the key advantage is duty-free import for what's referred to as originating goods. Each agreement has general rules that outline how goods can qualify for duty-free import. These are known as the rules of origin. In addition to the general rules, each agreement has specific origin rules for certain categories, for such things as automotive, textiles, and chemicals. So, while it can seem incredibly complex, because while it can be, free trade benefits are there for the taking. If it was made, grown, raised, or extracted from a country sharing a free trade agreement with Canada, it likely qualifies for duty-free import. Be sure to include a certification of origin if you wish to take advantage of one of Canada's many free trade agreements. Visit our blog on Canada's free trade agreements to learn more. Non-resident importer program to Canada. The NRI program allows foreign businesses to get a Canadian business number. It greatly streamlines the importing process without having to involve your Canadian customers. As a non-resident importer, foreign companies can act as their own distributor across Canada. The requirements include record keeping and posting of a surety bond. And note that different rules for determining the value for duty may apply for NRIs. Finding the best shipping options to Canada and getting Canadian international logistics support. The best way or mode of shipping depends primarily on the size and weight of your consignment and shipping volume. Local postal options are best for sending the occasional personal shipment and e-commerce volumes. Large e-commerce volumes and business-to-business regular orders can benefit from zone jumping processes using a non-resident importer program direct to Canada. For heavier packages, FedEx and UPS Ground are the preferred option from the United States. For overseas origins, FedEx, UPS, and DHL Air options have the best value. Trucking from the United States and sea freight from overseas origins are best for larger commercial orders. These are some of the factors our team considers to find your best shipping options. And a quick reminder, if you find this information useful, please hit like. Once again, we appreciate your feedback. An important difference for ground versus air to Canada from the United States is that ground shipments do not include customs entry declaration. Entry preparation is included for most air courier shipments. Ground can still be the best option, but keep this cost in mind. Visit our blog on common Canadian import fees for more details. For shipments importing via FedEx, UPS, and DHL Economy Air or Express, standard entry preparation fees are usually included for imports with a value under 3,300 Canadian dollars. JET's logistics support includes managing and supporting your logistics activities to and from Canada and globally. If you ever ask the question, wouldn't it be great to have a partner with international expertise in Canada? Well, now you do. JET ship worldwide. Contact our best-in-class logistics team for rates and global project support.